I will start I will start recording the session. Welcome everyone to our last session of this course of youth empowerment that has been built with the Latin American Energy Organization, thinking on the role of youth in the energy transition process for Latin America and the Caribbean. We want to say thank you to our strategic partners that have been participating in the different messages, Youth for Energy, NGO 1.5, CIUS Chile, and the Latin American Observatory of Geopolitical Energy, OLADE from Brazil. We also receive support from our four strategic partners for the sessions, in the reflections, in the construction of this program. So the Latin American Organization for Energy would like to say thank you for this effort. Today is the last session, and we would like that all the students could meet all the people behind the scenes and also the ones who will be on the meeting on September 29th in Chile, in the University of Chile. This will be the space for sharing among young people, but we will invite decision makers and civil society partners with participants of all the subregions from Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is the framework for our meeting, and we are willing to know what are the experiences and the news that our strategic partners will share with us today. So welcome, Youth from Energy, Alex Sada. He is a Mexican young leader working for the energy transition, sustainability, and youth empowerment. He was the founder of Youth Energy, and he has been encouraging in regional initiatives that connect education, energy, and climate action. He, co- his activist is very creative and has a vision about the future of the planet. So, Axel, welcome. Thank you for helping us to develop this idea of empowering youth people. So the floor is yours, so you can tell us about the work of Youth for Energy. Thank you, Valentina. Thank you, Olade, for trusting on the young people from Latin America. Thank you for my peers from 1.5 sales. Olaje. So this is a reality. This is session number 9. It has been a very intense month. We've been working hard. We've been meeting young people who have been participating. So I am inspired to continue developing opportunities and events because the idea is that we are able to continue training ourselves. We are so happy to have our face-to-face meeting in Chile. So I hope that we will meet some more we meet more people over there. I want to tell you what is Youth for Energy, how it is born. Can you see the screen? Youth for Energy is promoting the energy transition for a sustainable future. We are an organization that led by youth. My female partners and me, myself, founded this organization, and now we are also representing an organization that represents the United Nations. And we are also working with the Sustainable Energy for All ambassadors, that is the official channel from Youth Energy. They would like to develop the leadership role of the youth in the energy sector. I would like to start this section with a statement that has impacted me. I've been working for more than 12 years in energy transition. This is a statement that I read in a Manuel Castel that is called The Greening of My Interior of Myself. So this made me change my perspective and this encouraged me to take actions. So the green statements of the policies is kind of celebration. We recognize that every one of us is part of the problems in the world, but we are also part of the solution. The threats and the healing possibilities are not outside ourselves. We need to start working where we are. We don't need to wait until the conditions are ideal. We need to simplify our lives and to live in such a way that we represent ecological and human values. Conditions will improve because we have started. Therefore, we can say that the fundamental goal is of the green policy is to ensure we have an interior revolution, the greening of myself. So I really like this statement. You don't need to wait until the conditions are ideal. So this reminds me of when I started my activism, because I tried to convince other people to share my vision that if we start today, if we start working in the place where we are, the conditions will be improved. So this is a statement that is very inspiring. I recommend you this publication from Manuel Castel, the reverdecimiento de su interior. So this helped me to ensure that we can work for a greener world for all of us. Well, my background, we all have a reason for the things that we do. I grew up in a oil company in a family that has been for years working on fossil fuels. My father, my grandfather, my uncles are working for Pemex from Mexican Petroleum. So I just grew up in a city because that city was founded because of the oil refinery. So that city didn't exist before that. They decided to build a refinery, and then a city just was created around the refinery. So my family got to this city looking for employment, looking for development. So I grew up looking from my window, and I was looking at the fires and the towers of extraction as something normal. So when I came back after going to study in another city, so then I realized those colors, those fires were not normal, that excessive hot was not normal, that all the inhabitants were living there because they just found a job over there. And then I realized that the industry is polluting not only the environment, but it's also polluting the way we relate to each other. Also, the employment model is also very negative, and they was like the idea that the people are selling themselves to a oil company that of course pay you a higher salary, but it is affected our health, our environmental health, and affecting the future of our beloved ones. So I am not the black sheep of my family, I am the green sheep. So I decided to change everything. I said, no, I'm going to develop my own path. I want just to I decided to look for another possibility. I wanted to break away from the legacy of oil workers. When I told my parents I want to study this, I want to that, they say, no, study chemical, study something related to the oil processes because you will get money. And I was very rebel and I say no. So I started to look for my path. I had to move to another city to find new friends, to find new spaces. And nowadays, I can see that I am so proud of spending these past years on energy transition processes. Of course, uh, I I was so encouraged and motivated to work and to try to change things. But of course, it's difficult to fight against a big oil company. But I decided to start in my university community. I started founding different youth organizations. I connected with international organizations. So I started to become a leader. I think I am a crisis leader because I've been always at the core of some problematical processes. I also had to face the pressure of my family. Yeah, I told them, no, I want to look for my own path. I think one important aspect was that I didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to find something else to do. So working on the energy transition is very positive. I live from this. I'm here talking to you about this. I always try to inspire others. So this is about me. I am an engineer on renewable energy from Guadalajara University. I am 31 years old. And my colleagues and I decided to found Youth for Energy. I was in the for climate. I was in Italy and I was been working with the United Nations Development Program, and I was so happy because I was able to connect with other people working about energy. So I said, I want to really do things differently with my vision, with my ideas, and with the people who share my ideas. So I just started to take some steps. I knew many other people, and I decided that it was time to found Youth for Energy. So we started 2 years ago. However, the people working in the organization had more than 10 years of experience. So despite we are a young organization, we have experience. All of us have a long experience on working with young people, and we want to ensure that we have a more sustainable, uh, fairer, and more accessible future. The idea is that we work not only with, you know, inside our countries, but we want to contact regional entities, international organizations, and that is really important. And we think that these programs can promote a better way of addressing these challenges by taking action, for example, local impact projects, education, developing alliances. We are convinced that all the people, all the young people should be part of this Youth for Energy. We have young people from Argentina, Peru, Honduras, Colombia. So other, and this is important because we want to empower the young people because we need them to understand the tribal crisis that we are facing. And we are hungry for knowledge. And I believe on the fair energy that can be built with the young people, with the grassroots groups. And throughout these programs during this past month, I've been listening to your opinions, dear, and I realized that you know a lot about the transition in your country. So I'm so amazed because I think we have a power, and I think this is the moment we need to start taking actions. We don't need money, we don't need favors. We just need to take action now. At the beginning, it could be difficult, but the important thing is that we continue doing what we have to do. We have an structure, so we have a like a funnel structure. We work with authorities like OLADE, with Energy for All, with the Youth Energy Constitution. We also have campaigns like uh, and we work with international agencies. We have also worked with Renton 21 that launched a report about the energy sector. We have been working also with other countries, for example, Panama, Barbados. We were there. And the second part of the funnel is to try to develop alliances with the regional organizations, national governments, and subnational governments. So we start with the global, then we go to the regional or national level, and then we get to the grassroots organizations. We try to talk with the children, with the old people, with the adults, because energy transition is intergenerational process. And I think this is something that we all need to do something about that. In my country, 1% of the population do not have access to energy. This means but if we compare this to Africa, when more than 40% of the people do not have access to electricity, this is a concern. So we live in an energy privilege because I was born depending on electricity, because I have electricity, I can charge my laptop, I can be here with you. Sometimes we do not realize about this. I mean, can we think about it, how a day in your life could be if you do not have energy? Be- Because everything seems so simple. We have different pillars. The first pillar is energy education and communication. So we have different projects, but energy education is the core of what we do. This is the fundamental aspect of the process because without education, you cannot make decisions. Without information, you cannot move forward. And then how can we communicate? How can we transform this information? So we want to ensure that we reach all the people with our message. We recently inaugurated a new section. It is called Energy Thermometer. We are we are trying to interact with people in the social media. Another thing is the intersectoral cooperation. We've been working with different companies like Siemens, Schneider Electric, foundations, with Olade, of course. Olade is a key partner for us, and we also enjoy to work with the youth organizations like 1.5 Oleaje, and we recently started to collaborate with SEUS. And I also congratulate you because you have been also here participating with this course. We've been working with Misión Soberanía in Argentina, Energy Progression in Chile. We have been creating more opportunities to link with other entities, for example, with the International Committee of Human Rights. So international and intersectoral cooperation is key because the idea is that we have a clear idea of how can we work with these organizations in the long term, because the idea is that we don't go too fast. We can go slow, but we have to ensure that we are on the right path. Of course, we need to ensure that we have to work also with the local impact projects. We are trying to do this in different countries. Here in Yucatan, we are facing some um, energy cuts. So we are also working to ensure that all the communities, isolated communities, have access to energy. We have also been working with groups of migrants. We were in Monterrey and we implemented culture and artistic workshops in these refugees so that they start thinking about energy transition. For example, they need energy. They are coming from Central America to the US. They need to charge their phones. They need electricity to warm their nights. So we are trying to collaborate with them. I think in terms of energy, communication, and education, we have our sustainable energy booklet. This was launched with UNICEF. This was the first one. We also work on the another booklet for maritime transportation. Also, we are working on another booklet for energy justice. We have been making some consultations from the COPs, consultations about justice and human rights, innovation and technology. Our consultations are really interesting. Uh, there's a important process. It's like a dialogue. So what I really like about these consultations is the dialogue that we have. And finally, we have the content creation and dissemination. So we are inviting people to create content. We were participating in the OLADE summit in Peru about the Methanol summit. So our partners in the city took some pictures, reported about this event. You can find this in our social media. But the idea is that we have a good dissemination of our work. So intersectorial cooperation. We have training and consultancy programs for the companies in the sector. We've been working with the University of Guadalajara, Universidad de Monterrey, and other universities in Colombia and Honduras. Our consultancy and training program is also a way to generate impact. We have been training public servants where we talk about energy education. We've also trained teachers because they are the spokespersons, because they are the ones working with children and young people. So we are telling them how to educate children on energy and climate change topics. We've been working also with some universities. For example, we participated in the Energy Global Forum in Barbados. We had a representation of the South American countries, and we were able to discuss about different ideologies. So the idea was to work on fair energy. Also at local impact projects, we have a project that is called Reinventing Communities. Is how to transform a neighborhood, not only in isolated and vulnerable communities, but also in the metropolis. We have had impacts on in different neighborhoods and parks in Guadalajara. But now we are working with isolated communities that need access to energy. And we also have the cultural and artistic exhibition. Within that, through art, we can raise awareness about energy transition. So this forum is held in the International Book Fair of Monterrey. Is organized by the Tecnológico de Monterrey, that is a private university. So we are um, giving um, some talks about energy. um, we have been participating in different conferences for young people where they try to understand what is energy transition, but also something simple so they can understand what does it mean and they can join the different efforts. Also, we want to ensure that sports, painting, graffitis, what is called the urban art is linked to this, so that the young people feel attracted to these topics. About the special projects, we have we are participating in the executive program from OLADE 2025. We are trying to train and different people. We are trying to have intergenerational dialogues with ministries. We will have 1 week in Chile. This is the first time that we have this type of events at regional level, so that as we are part of a ministerial agenda. Also, we have another project that is called the decarbonization of the ports. Uh, we we are working with admirals from the Navy to to try to convince them that the ships are polluting the ports, the harbors, that it's not about the trade or the money, because in the ports you are generating a lot of money, but we are trying to raise awareness about the effects on the population. So we are also working with ports in Callao because our special project is about maritime and port decarbonization. So we want to ensure that the stakeholders are aware of the impacts. Also, we are working on critical and submarine minerals that is linked to the energy transition because energy transition cannot be achieved without the transformation of critical minerals because they are needed for the manufacturing of different batteries and panels, etc. So we need to understand how can we explode these minerals and how this could affect biodiversity. So for recent actions and events, we went, we participated in the summit of Brazil. So we had a group participating in the Regional Forum of Latin America. This is also one of the conferences that we had in Monterrey last year. Uh, so this was the inventor of the diesel engine. But the interesting about Rudolf Diesel is that the first time that an engine was owned was with vegetable oil. But with the time, a businessman like Rockefeller or Winston Churchill decided to use oil and gas. But Rudolf designed this engine to reduce pollution. So we also participated in the Carbon Forum. We had a visit from Francisco in Monterrey. We were with migrants. We also participated in the Ocean Conference Week. We have been sharing many information. We participated in the COPs 28, 29 and the Diversity COP. Last year, we won the Ocean Award in Taiwan. We also were working with the Natural Center in Asia. We also participated with other young people from Latin America in Olaje and other people from Peru and Panama. So we have been participating in different events, for example, in Mexico, Costa Rica, and Chile. Well, just to conclude, we invite you to our regional consultation. It will be held on August 17th. That is the month of young people. We will have a consultation about energy security in Latin America. Edgar Maestre was here in the last session. So this America Summit will be held in December. This will be sort of innovation lab. So if you have ideas, you can present them. Please follow us in the social media, Youth for Energy in Instagram and LinkedIn. Maybe we will have a TikTok in the future. We are learning about how to use it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Axel, for telling us about these inspiring stories and that you will know that all the young people have their own stories and we are creating this space to take actions because we want to generate changes. I would like to make some changes, sorry, some questions. How can we encourage the leadership and professional development of young people? What would be your advice on What advice would you give to other young people to start their own initiatives in this sector? Well, to participate in Youth for Energy is very easy. We have a volunteering program. So if you want to join, you can just write to us. I'm going to give you my number so you can contact me. The volunteering program is growing. We have 33 people from different countries. We are doing this with Olade. We've been training them on how to create alliances, how to communicate. This Friday, we will have a meeting about fundraising. So we think it's important not only to join these initiatives to take action, but also to learn. I think that to participate in these processes, the first question is, what is your motivation for energy transition? Why do you need to participate? As I told you, I grew up uh, in a city where with oil companies, with oil refineries, but you don't have to have the same experience. So just think about the privilege that you live. There are many people who do not have access to energy, that they have to save batteries. They need to use the minimum energy. For example, in Yucatan, we have blackouts. We don't have electricity for 4 or 5 hours in the evening when the temperature is really hot. So that is not very nice. So the first thing is you just need to feel it to, and then um, to understand what is the situation of people without energy. For example, why don't you stop using energy for one day? Or what would you do without a car that takes you everywhere, without internet? Okay, at global level, it is known that if energy was stopped for 1 month, everything was just a catastrophe, the banking systems, everything. So 3 months without energy will generate wars. I mean, and after a year, I mean, the world wouldn't exist without energy. So when you think about these aspects, you realize the importance of energy. And please do it. How could be my life today if I had no electricity? What could how could I have breakfast? How could I go to the job and other things? Thank you, Axel, for your invitation to make this reflection. I know that there are some questions in the chat. I know that Axel will answer those questions in the chat. At the end of all the presentations, we will have more space for questions and answers. But now I would like to invite 1.5. She is chemical engineer, magister on energy, specialized on planning, management of energy projects. She is responsible for energy transition in 1.5, and she's working on energy sustainability, and they are promoting regional initiatives to strengthen their capacities. They have been leading different strategic projects like the Energy Transition Academy from Latin America and the Caribbean. Uh, In this academy, they combine research and communication tools. PAS is working on democratization the knowledge and developing territorial experiences. Thank you, PAS, for the participation of 1.5. And now please share about your NGO. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to tell you about our NGO. Basically, we use this number because of the Paris Agreement, where all the countries agreed not to oversee to exceed the 1.5 of global warming. So that helped us to create our identity. We are also working on the sustainable development objectives. That's why we have this circle. And the colors represent the temperature increases. This is our identity. Well, okay, we said, okay, we have the NGO. What is our inspiration? So we define three pillars, and we are implementing projects on these areas. We started to work in 2019, and our pillars are education, advocacy, and community, because within those are the opportunities that we need to take advantage of in order to generate a change for climate change and energy transition. And these are the events where we have participated in these pictures. Our work is collaborative and intersectional. We work with different other organizations and countries where young people from all the region have joined. We have managed incredible projects. We also develop reports. We also have publish articles and newsletters trying to inform about our pillars. For example, education. For example, we have had some courses on ecofeminism, climate actions, and we've been also talking about energy transition. Last year, we had the Transition Academy, and the scope was really good. Now we are trying to develop this brand to implement that in the different countries. We have also collaborated with different institutions. These are some of them. This is just to tell you that from a seed, from an idea, big things could happen. Important collaborative projects can also be created. Okay, these are in 2019, we organized the COI 15 in Spain. I think this was like the first COIs, and we continue with the different regional level, our COIs. We were in Costa Rica and in Colombia, creating this community of young people. Then on 2022, we had the Chile uh, conference. We had the ALCOI, and we prepared our young people to participate in the CON 27. And this is an also important event because I want to convey the message that we are an NGO that is not working alone, but we are promoting integration, collaboration, because we want to build a community, not only inside our country, but to create a networking among the different organizations in the region. In terms of energy transition, we've been working on the hub for energy transition. The first project was the 2022 in Chile. Then we had the TOT, and now we are working with Argentina on the Energy Transition Academy, and in the future we will be also be supporting the energy transition platform in different other countries to share this knowledge to ensure the academy shares more information. We are also working on an energy transition platform. This platform will be center of information for people looking for energy transition. So we will be including information about energy for the different countries, for example, maps, profiles, manuals, publications. So it could be like a main library where you can find accurate and verified information, simply to understand, simple to understand. So our objective is to also to promote intersectionality and equity. So we want to make our efforts to ensure that all the materials have an inclusive language and easily accessible. I'm going to share with you the Instagram profile and the WhatsApp where we are creating our community of energy transition. I think that all the participants of the WhatsApp are sharing um, information about different events and activities. So it's also a way, an opportunity to contact with other people, other young people with the same objective. Thank you. Okay, let's read some questions in the chat. I had the opportunity to work with Caio, and I think that Caio asked me about the challenges. So one of the challenges have been to ensuring that all the organizations have like I don't know how to say it, but to have like horizontal dialogue that we listen to each other. So those has been one of the biggest challenges. Also, trying to agree on an agenda, also ensuring that all the people um, they realize the importance of collective action. Thank you for your presentation and for sharing the work of 1.5. I have one question. How can we ensure diversity and inclusion among the teams, but also in the projects? So we are young people from with different identities, and sometimes we are together for a call of action, but how can we ensure this diversity? I didn't listen hear you well. Well, the question is about how can we ensure that inclusion and diversity is reflected in our initiatives within the team? Okay, in the teams, we also try to ensure that we have intersectionality. And we also have a group of volunteers, and we are calling them climate agents and energy transition agents. So we try to ensure we have a good representation in terms of uh, gender, uh, and also when we are doing our academias, we are trying to ensure that we have gender equality, also ages and technical level. So we try to ensure equity in all of our actions. On the other hand, as part of our communications, for example, publications or documents, how we ensure that that the information is democratized is that we try to develop simple language documents with diagrams, with colors, user-friendly layout, because we have to consider that not all the people are experts on the topic. So I think we are trying to work on equality by using these processes that I have mentioned. We have also comment from Chile. So the memory could, for example, that we need to reflect about the use of energy at different levels. We need to work on raising awareness about the privilege of having energy, about our territories, and I think your comment is very adequate. It is related to the first question. Can you repeat the question? I think that the question is how can we ensure that the projects reflect diversity uh, and the different and in the inclusion of different identities. I think there was a question that how can we identify the opportunities to involve young people in energy transition? Yes, you can answer that question. We think that young that the young people can help us to transform the energy models because the young people are motivated to develop these new models, decentralized models, that they are aware of their communities, that they look for a better future. So we think that we have the opportunity to train them with critical perspectives and to develop these campaigns or academias that promote their participation in the different territories. and to encourage them to develop their own projects in their communities. When we also help them to realize that they could have opportunities to replicate these processes in their communities. So, for example, we ensure that they develop their leadership skills. Thank you, Paz, for sharing. I invite Paz to continue answering these questions in the chat about the work of 1.5. But now I will pass the floor to Zeus Chile. Matias Cortez Calderon, coordinator of the Fair Energy Transition Project from Zeus, Chile. He has been also a constitutional advisor, consultant on sustainability, and researcher. So we have here the different young people, Axel, Youth for Energy, with a work of 1.5, and sales. And these organizations have different origins, and it's important for us to know that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this executive program. And now please share about the work of Zeus Chile. Thank you, Valentina. Thank you all for being here. We are NGO Zeus Chile. Zeus Chile is a non-profit organization that aims at empowering and developing capacities on citizenship for advocacy on topics related to sustainability, climate crisis, and environment. As an NGO, we've been working for 8 years in different topics. For example, constitutional changes in Chile, but also we've been doing some work at regional and international level, for example, climate negotiations. We were working on the Climate Change Framework Convention about losses and repairs. Also, we are working on the a fair energy transition in the country, in Chile, and at regional level, and also at the international level through the uh, United Emirates, Arab Emirates, and also with the Framework Convention for the Climate Change. About our story, CEUS was created in 2017 with a Center of Engineering students from Universidad de Chile. So we identified the need to work on sustainability in the faculty. That's why in the 2016 we had the first University Students Congress on sustainability. Then on the next year, we had the second Congress, and on 2018, the NGO is created, and we just shorted our name was ONG Zeus Chile because we started to work outside the university, working, for example, on the for example, we started to work on the climate juvenile agenda for the also in the negotiations for CAP 25, and also we have been also working with foundations and international organizations like Oxfam in Latin America and 100 Fuel in the south part of America and Freddie Harvard. And we have also very significant projects and alliances. So the Congress was our first uh, event, but we needed to make some changes specifically for the pandemic. So the 2021 was the last big Congress, but we felt the need to continue working on different alliances. And for us, these flagship partnerships are important because we want to work for justice, because we want to, for example, we are part of the justice and energy transition for Latin America and the Caribbean. And we are working on public policies. We're helping the communities through the network Chao Carbon. We are also working on the legal advocacy with the coalition to eliminate plastics. Also, the Climate Action Network at international level. For example, we are working on developing proposals for the COPE or to participate in the different programs for just and fair transition. Some years ago, we were working on a youth school in Chile because we also want to work on policies and environmental issues. Because okay, we had this type of events in our country because we wanted to ensure the constitutional change, but it didn't succeed. We are also working on podcast on climate actions, energy policies. We have the master talks from Zeus. We also had a fair with 12 organizations. So our priority is building capacities because we want to ensure that young people are empowered, that they develop networks, and they are able to generate real changes in society. In the energy transition area, we've been working since 2021. For example, we work on a project that is called Fair Energy Transition in Latin America. It was a very important project that helped us to start this change of paradigms. We published some briefs about the fair energy transition. So if you check these first briefs uh, energy transition, and then you verify the legislation in here in Chile, they have included our text in the legislation. So for us, it is important to generate these enabling conditions to ensure that we have results. But that is one of the objectives, but also want to have also dialogue spaces. We also work with the FEMA, and we hope to continue doing these actions because these are like the pre-COPs reports and events. We are also working on training on political ecology, trying to understand how the society is changing, how the economic process are affecting and what is happening with the climate change. One of the reasons why South Chile is working on a fair energy transition is because we consider that if we do not generate important social changes, we will have an energy transition that will only uh, uh, transfer the damages to one sector to another sector. So what we want to work, what is our goal, why we think an fair energy transition is essential is that we need to ensure that we have a radical social and structural change in the society to prevent social and ecological devastation. So our principles are mutually solidarity because the essence is that we need to ensure that the energy transition is based on social justice, ecological justice, intergenerational process with gender perspective. If we don't do that, it will only be a change of technology and we will not be responding to the structural inequalities that provoke all the damages in our world. So we would like to protect the conditions for the reproduction and conservation of life because climate crisis is getting worse. So we do many things in terms of um, publications. We develop some um, events that are called cabildos. So we develop a proposal about how do we feel about the climate crisis in Latin America. What are the main problems that are identified about barriers for energy transition? And of course, to develop proposals for solutions. And we also will launch a brief that is the situation of institutions in Latin America. This brief makes an analysis of how the institutions involved in the fair energy transition are developing. For example, within the government, specifically in Colombia, Chile, Peru, and Argentina. Uh, this, but this brief also talks about how this concept of energy transition has been embedding on the different institutions and governments. For example, some governments embed this into a transition or environmental ministries of energy and mine ministries. Of course, this will affect the actions that can be taken at public level. And finally, this is for the people in Chile, is sales and what GP. We'll be implementing a project that is called Diálogos Globales, Global Dialogues. So we will have in Chile national dialogues about nature-based solutions. South Chile is working also on climate resilience. So we want to promote nature-based solutions. So this is how can we create resilience in rural and urban settlements for the reduction of the climate change effects. For example, floatings and heat islands. So this will be implemented in Chile, virtually in Chile on September, on the 2nd and 4th of September. We will be enrolling the participants through Google Forms. This is our Instagram. We also have a web page. And if you have any question, you can contact me through the email. Thank you, Matias, for sharing what's the motivation of sales and the activities that you are implementing. There is a comment. I think that if you don't mention this, you mention that you just will be sacrificing the well-being of some people, and and we won't be achieving what you mentioned, that is equity in this transition. So what does a fair energy transition means? About these questions, I agree with the comment. So this comes from a conversation with different other organizations. So there are some consumption patterns that need to be changed, but at the same time, we need to ensure social well-being in the framework of transition. For example, if we are talking about the community transition, means that we need to empower the communities. We cannot generate the vertical social transformation process from the top to the bottom. For example, only the electricity companies have an influence on the energy governance. Note, when we are talking about community, we are thinking about the building of networks, or, for example, creating energy cooperatives that can generate and transmit and distribute energy at local and national level. Because the solutions should be sustainable in the long term, because that's an important aspect, because if the population do not have the abilities to maintain a micro network, that micro network will be lost. So the community is important. In terms of feminism, this is a key aspect that we need to work on. If we check the statistics on gender gaps, we can notice un the level of inequality. For example, the women are responsible for the household chores, they are responsible for cooking, they are exposed to pollution. For example, if they are responsible for ensuring um, I don't know, everything, all the conditions for the for the household. So we need to ensure that they have conditions to overcome the energy poverty, and the effort should be aimed at women because they are the ones facing the biggest challenges. And when we talk about intergeneration, we need to ensure that that all together work for the future of our planet. I think I tried to answer all the questions in once at once. Thank you. Your answer was very good. And then that in Olade, we have prepared some questions for all the organizations. Uh, and even Matthias already um, answered some questions. I would like to ask, what do you think would be the role of other uh, uh, stakeholders like government, private companies, academia? I think that all the stakeholders are essential. Civil society is key. I think we are just a root from a big tree of civil society that is making a lot of effort to ensure a fair energy transition. And we are so happy to collaborate with all the stakeholders. With the governments, it's a must. You cannot work on advocacy if you don't involve the government. Of course, there will be some problems, maybe some that is normal, but it's important to ch- to create institutions that ensure that the role of the government as a duty bearer is also part of these new institutions because they are the duty bearers of these processes. We also need to work with the generators, distributors, and transmitters of electricity. And some stakeholders are also innovating. So we believe that the only way to have success is through dialogue. That is why we are always working on developing recommendations for public policies, advocacy efforts, capacity building, because our objective is that we have empowered citizens to have the citizens with the capacity to make decisions and the capacity to demand their rights, because if we are talking about justice, we need to ensure that we overcome the inequalities, the structural inequalities in society. Thank you, Matthias, for your reflection. We know that here we have different organizations, different motivations that are aimed at developing this inclusive energy development. Uh, I invite you also to answer the questions in the chat And now I welcome our fourth speaker from Brazil. It's a pleasure to have here two representatives from the Latin American Observatory of Geopolitical Energy and Geopolitical Observatory. Here we have Joyce Mender, who is member of the main group from the United Nations for Child and Young People, also from the International Agency for Renewable Energy, and she's the focal point for the Juvenile Fund for Climate Justice. Joyce was also the advisor to the General Secretary of United Nations on climate change, and also she is involved with the observatory from Foz de Iguaçu and from the University UNILA. We also have Manuela Lima. She is the International Cooperation Advisor, an active member of OLAGE, and she's also researching on the sustainable development. She's also part of the key terms for the Student Energy Summit for the event this year. And she is a bachelor degree student from the UNILAB. Welcome. Thank you for hearing you. Thank you for your support, your contribution, and for your motivation to create this positive impact. Welcome, Joyce and Manuela. Thank you. We are so happy to be here. Okay. Okay, I will be speaking in Spanish and my colleague will speak in Portuguese. The idea is to tell about our story. The observatory was created in 2017 in the UNILA. That's the Universidad Federal de Integración Latinoamericana. So it's the Latin America Integration Federal University. We were learning about Latin American culture, geopolitical energy, and we had students from all the countries of Latin America, and we say we didn't know about the reality of our neighboring countries in Latin America, and how can we create a space for investigation and sharing? So with the professor Lucas Gary Oliveira, we decided to create this space for investigation and extension, where young people represent more than 90% of the members of the observatory. So the idea was to be able to participate in some spaces and to develop some projects. So the main topics were, for example, technical cooperation, technological transition, innovation. And when we new members joined, on we started to include different other cross-cutting topics. For example, we included some practical actions. And these years we are studying the BRICS. So we had a very strong participation within the um, youth summit on BRICS. So Manuela, please tell us about the university. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad de estar aquí, de presentar a la organización. I am now attending an international relationships course. One of the topics was the regional integration of Latin America and the Caribbean. So, because this idea, this university is a very is a reach of in culture. We have students from Latin America, from Africa. We have indigenous students from different countries of Latin America. So it's a university with a lot of diversity. So we needed to create some subjects trying to understand the realities because UNILA is a project that needs to be understood. So there are some Brazilians that um, so they don't realize that they are part of this um, society. For example, Spanish is also a mandatory subject, is part of the curriculum. So the environment is really, really positive. Love this UNILA project, and I think that this project should be extended. So in these spaces, the integration was happening in our classrooms, but how can we ensure this integration is transferred to people outside the university? So there are some photos. This was in 2017. We organized a seminar with members of the observatory. This was the Latin American Observatory with 700 participants. So the idea was to develop roadmaps to guide the work of the observatory. And one of the spaces was the the colloquium of energy geopolitical. We are we have the Laitapum project because Paraguay and Brazil are the owners of this hydroelectric, but we organized the first open dialogue for civil society from both sides so people could develop their questions. So also trying to democratize in the science, we needed to find the space to share this knowledge. Also, we have these online meetings because it was the pandemic period. Also, there are some participations in international fora where we are trying to create some spaces. For example, the IRENA, the BRICS Youth Energy Summit, the COPs, and also the Global Youth Climate Summit. So in the COPs, we ensured that we had meetings with decision makers because we didn't just go there to take a picture. Manuela, please tell us about the last participation the previous week. I want to give you some context information. The UNILA is located in Foz de Iguazu in the border with other two cities, one in Argentina and Paraguay. And, and this is important for us because the people living in Foz de Iguazu, we see there is an intergenerational change, and in my last participation from Olade was here. We were invited by the ONUDI, that this was on July 7 and 8, and we were talking about what is the role of the people in the green industrialization process. It was so interesting to participate in that event because talking about industrialization in Latin America is different in the global north or Europe. So being there, and witness the level of discussions about sustainability was really important. Also, I think that the in all we felt included because we all were included in the process. We developed some uh, thematic objectives, for example, um, s- different the leadership processes, the participation of women, and also fundraising for the green industrialization. So it was really important for us because this event created this type of relationships. Um, Also, we participated in the Alliance Net Zero for Industrial Decarbonization, and we discuss about how can we align our objectives with the university. Thank you. Also, another project that we have is we had a visit in Rio de Janeiro in the Angra. That is an example of technology and sustainability in Brazil. Manu, can you briefly tell us about this extension program for territorial sustainability? This is a program that the observatory is implementing with Itaipu, with the federal government. This project works in schools, implementing some workshops or seminars. Uh, we are working also in the university on the reforestation actions. We can check our web page to see what are the seminars that we have about energy policy. Here about the awareness raising at schools. There are workshops that we implemented with children of 4 or 5 years, and we were showing them the different temperatures in the different environments. So we were using some plastic toys to show them the change of temperature on the earth or under a tree or in the top of the tree. So we were trying to teach them about climate actions. Also, we are working with the UFAM. UFAM is the host of this event, is the Federal University of Amazonas. This event will be promoted by the UFAM. Um, we are supporting this event in October this year, from October and November in Manaus. So in Manaus is the first time that we will have this summit in Brazil. So this is the Student Energy Summit. We will have the participation of 500 change agents, and we will be talking about technology and innovation and cultural aspects, fair inclusion. We will also be talking with Amazon basin communities and all the people that should be included in the transition process. Because if we do not involve all the stakeholders, we won't have energy transition, because energy transition is not only the change of the matrix, it's the involvement of the stakeholders, of the people who are part of that. So this could be a very amazing project. You can follow us on the social media, and we will have different reports and briefs about this topic. Now I'm talking about the collaborations. Yeah, we have involved here some examples of collaborative projects, because we like to work with others, because in order to have a Latin American fair energy transition, we need to promote collective action. We need to involve decision makers, but also the community. So we see ourselves like in the middle. So we are open to alliances, contributions. If an organization has an initiative, please send us a message. We can start a dialogue among youth, young people, and then we could develop some interesting spaces. So these are some of the initiatives that we've been supporting with OLADE, with the UNCINCO, with the Energy Transition Academy. That was a very important milestone for our region. It was an integration also in language, and also the BRICS Youth Energy Agency. So it's like Brazil and the Latin American countries that are part of the BRICS are the source of innovation for the energy transition. Yes. And the last project we are going to talk about is a very special project that was finished yesterday. S- We have 5 minutes, so I'm just going to tell you about this. Remember, during the pandemic, we had to adapt our actions. So until 2019, we were developing some theoretical courses until the pandemic. So the studies from the UNILA came back to their countries, and we have a member of the observatory, is a Peruvian indigenous leader, women, and she came back to her community, and she never sent a message for 2 months. So we, in addition to be a group of volunteers, we are friends. So we were really concerned about her safe, and she sent a message saying, okay, I'm okay, but in my community, there's no internet, there's no electricity. And he said, oh my God. And so we said, everything is good in paper. I mean, what's happening in the communities in paper, everything is good, nice, but she does not have any electricity. And they say, okay, can the observatory help me to have access to internet? And we said, yes. So we contact some partners in Peru. So she bought a satellite and installed that satellite in her house to continue with the classes. And then Rosanna says the people from the community also need internet. For example, when a snake bites someone, we need to call for an ambulance that comes through the river. And in Peru, the pandemic was really strict. They couldn't go out from their communities. So, case we started to um, um, develop this project. We had a photovoltaic panel, and the community didn't have a school, so they decided to build a school. Thanks to the access to internet through solar energy, a teacher was there to teach the children, so they didn't have to go out of the community to continue their education. And they are 6 hours away from the closest city by boat if everything goes well. So you cannot ask that the people to travel for that long to get connected to continue with their education. So Rosanna and the community said, please help us. So we started to design a co-participation model. How a project for electricity, led by the community with the support of the young people, could help us to find support to this project. So what we did last week is that we installed 40 systems, solar energy systems to have, so the families have access not only through internet, but to electricity. They can charge their cell phones, they have small fridges. And we started the training processes with volunteers from the community. So this is the team that was working for online for 5 years. So it was a nice space to get together. And down the left is the first technician that was trained using our process for the installation of solar panels, and they will be invited to participate in other areas from the Peruvian Amazon. It was really difficult in terms of funding because we had engineers, economists, everything. But how can we create these spaces so that we can have access to funding? So we produce a documentary. We are working on the edition. We will be creating a guide of good practices in Spanish, Portuguese. I think that the government is interested in translating this into very indigenous languages. On this is for the young people. How can they develop the project? How can they raise funds? How can they work with the community? So I think we are so excited about this project. I wanted to show that this is uh like putting in practice everything that we are doing. So we are have also a project in the Colombian Guajira. We have learning a lot, and we are open to collaborate with the people from Colombia. So our indigenous leader is here, and she is challenging us to have electricity in their community. So please follow up, be part of this initiative. Please challenge us, bring ideas. Manu? My final message is that we are an extremely open organization. We are doing our best to work with all the people, and we want to continue with projects like this with the community. So please join us because transition needs to be implemented by youth. Thank you, Joyce and Manuela. We are showing you some initiatives with different perspectives, civil societies, the space from the academia, but is linked with the young people, and also organized students that are working on these different aspects. Thank you, Manuel and Joyce. I think that Diana is here. Welcome, Diana from Youth for Energy. I want to thank of our strategic partners. We have almost 10 minutes to um, for questions or comments. Please leave your comments in the chat. I would like to ask some questions. How this work is how the young people that are involved in these processes are managing the challenges that you are facing in these initiatives. I don't know, Clever is raising the hand. Maybe you can start. Good afternoon. I am so excited about listening what OLEDE 1.5 other organizations are doing because um 3 years ago I started to understand better the issue of energy and transition during my postgraduate education, but I was then thinking, why Yolanda is talking about inclusion and empowerment, but now I think that I understand this better. I am an indigenous young people from the Ecuadorian Amazon region. So I'm so happy because I know that in the different Amazon regions in the South America, there are people working and committed with this energy transition processes. And after listening to your experiences, I feel more encouraged to continue working on these aspects because I think that the indigenous groups have not been like connected to these processes because sometimes it's complicated to have access to these type of opportunities and spaces. So I have a privilege, energy privilege, as someone else mentioned. So I also have the privilege of education, but I think the problem is not your privilege. The problem is what you can do with your privilege. So now I feel really encouraged to do more. So I feel now that I can replicate these experiences to our territories. Thank you very much. Thank you, Clever, for your sustained participation in the course. We know your history and your background. Javier Papas has a comment. I saw uh, Javier mentions that the work that you are doing is incredible. Thank you very much for sharing the knowledge with us and for opening these spaces. It has also been amazing to get to know the realities of Latin America and the Caribbean and the different ideas and problems. This is encouraging. Regards from Chile. From Honduras, say that the South, that I see that you are all really good organized in terms of energy transition. Nicolas says thank you. The very good experiences that have been shared today, and we continue working from Colombia. So I would like to ask the question again about how our identities are intersected with the realities because you are leaders, young people, leaders developing or implementing these actions, facing these challenges. So, how is your experience for you? I think that yeah, I would like to talk about the observatory. At the beginning, yeah, I was intimidating. I am a student, I am a youth, and of course, in terms in the energy sector, you have a white man working on that, and they say maybe he has a PhD, and they say, so do I need a master degree, a PhD to work on this area? And they say, no, that's not reality. The important aspect is that we need to assess and to recognize this intergenerational justice because we need support, but of course, our ideas are valid, our innovation, and also the need and urgency helps you to develop some answers. And the collective thinking is also important. I think that the climate crisis is linked to the energy transition, and the sovereignty of our region is sometimes affected by some um, efforts that think on young people as just as tokens. So we need to be aware of this. The idea is that we have a meaningful participation. I think now we have more spaces for dialogue, more spaces created by young people for young people. So this is an invitation for the collective action to challenge these paradigms, but also l- we need to look for innovations, not only technological innovations, but also we need to remember the ancestral knowledge. We need to recognize the ancient culture of our countries and in region in Latin America. Just want to thank all the participants. I want to thank all the commitment of all the organizers of this important course. And also, I want to thank the participants for their motivation to be there, to be here in this space. This is essential to continue forward. Thank you, Matthias. I also want to thank for the support for all the participants. Today is the last session, but we will have our first event face to face. So we hope to have you there. Please follow us on the social media. And I totally agree with you. The youth is the future, and we work together. We will be able to have bigger achievements. And we are so happy that Olade has included young people in the agenda. And thank you for supporting us. Thank you, Diana, for the permanent support that we have received from all the organizations. Paz, would you like to come? Uh, we will be waiting for you for the week of energy here in Chile. We will invite you to our offices that we will have an event, and we hope that you come here because we will be the seed for the change. And our slogan is that the organization is the seed of education and action. Okay, we are about ending this uh, capacity building plan, this space where we have been learning and sharing. Thank you, Youth for January, Olaje 1.5, Zeus Chile. As Paz says, wait, we are looking forward to your participation in Chile in September for the first encounter of young people in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you for your support. And we hope that we continue our discussions because we need to ensure that we continue advocating for public policies in our regions, in our region. Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Please, a photo.